oath, covenant, and meal. 26:28. They said, "We see plainly the Lord is with you, so we say, let there be," this is verse 28, "let there be an oath between us, and let us make a covenant with you." Verse 30, so he made them a feast, and they ate and drank. In the morning they rose early and took the oath with one another. So again, just note that these things go together. Oath, covenant, meal, often a sacrificial meal. Okay. Let's go to Jacob, chapter 31, verse 53 and 54. Jacob swears, but his father Isaac. Jacob offered a sacrifice, called on his kinsmen to eat bread, and they ate bread and tarried. We'll probably say this later. That word kinsman, if you were to look back, this is again, something on the side, but you might be interested. In Genesis 13:14, it refers to Lot as Abraham's kinsman. Does anybody know the relationship between Lot and Abraham? Exactly. So Lot is a nephew. You have kinsman because that's more accurate in English, but guess what that Hebrew word is? Ach, which means brother. Literally means brother. So you find so Lot is described literally as Abraham's Ach, his brother. Here, for we are kinsmen. Same word here. This Ach. It's with an aleph and a chet. The point, though, is this: the way covenantal society worked back then, it was not the mom, dad, and kids. It was this extended family, and they were all brothers and sisters. This is the background for Jesus in reference to brothers and sisters. You'll find in Acts 1, Peter referred to brethren in Greek, but Mary's there, right? So it was an inclusive term that included far more than simply blood siblings. And you see an example of that explicitly in Abraham and Lot. Abraham is said to be Lot's uncle. Lot is the nephew, but they're described in Hebrew as Ach, which literally is brother, but translated kinsman, for obvious reasons, because we know in the text they're not brothers, literally, they are kinsmen. What Hebrew is Ach. Here, note in 31:53, Jacob offers a sacrifice, but also over here, what you have here is a renewal between Jacob and Laban. In fact, Laban is Jacob's uncle, and they were basically enemies. Now they're going to make a covenant and renew themselves. So verse 44, "Come now, let us make a covenant, you and I, that it be a witness between you and me." Then they offer a sacrifice in 53-54. Then they ate bread in verse 54. So also put 31:44 and 53:54 over here, just for covenant. Here we have covenant, sacrifice, and meal.
It says 53 to what?
54.
Over on the right side.
Yeah, it's 31, 44, 53, and 54. So 31, 44, comma, 53 dash 54. All right, let's turn to Exodus 24. So in Exodus 19, it's called the Kingdom of Priests. In chapter 20, verse 2 through 17, you have the Ten Commandments given. In 24 is sort of the ratification of this covenant. And again, it will come with a sacrifice, and we'll see a meal. Take a look at 24:8. Behold the blood of the covenant. Does that sound familiar? Okay, Jesus at the Last Supper will draw on these very words. Here's the blood of the covenant, the blood of the new covenant. Exodus 24:8, blood of the covenant. Okay, blood. What's going on here again? Okay, ancient context, and especially appears in the Bible. Biblically speaking, you see this throughout. Blood equals the life. Blood equals life. In other words, to share the blood is to share the life. So especially when there's a covenant sacrifice involved, to consume the sacrifice is to share the life, covenant life together. That's how two enemies then can be brothers, friends, kinsmen. Share blood. The blood is the life. To share the blood is to share the life. So look at 24:8. Moses took the blood and threw it on the people and said, "Behold, the blood of the covenant which the Lord has made with you in accordance with all these words." That Yahweh would share His life now with His people. That they would be His people and He would be their God. The prophets, all of Jeremiah, Isaiah, they go to town on this, speaking of Yahweh as the husband, Israel as the wife. To get at that covenantal union. And moreover, when Israel then falls into idolatry, it's referred to as adultery. Idolatry is said to be equated with adultery, with the I and the N. So when you think in terms of covenant, in other words, what am I getting at? Covenant then between God and His people. Think father, son, husband, wife. And you can see this connection. That idolatry equals adultery. You'll read about harlot Israel when she is unfaithful. She prostitutes herself with other gods. He'll use that imagery. Okay, turn with me to Matthew. So you can see this, Matthew 26. I think verse 25. Verse 28. This is at the Last Supper. And Jesus says, this is Matthew, first Gospel, so first book of the New Testament, chapter 26, verse 20. "For this is my blood of the covenant, which is poured out for many for the forgiveness of sins." This is the blood of my covenant. Again, an allusion and an elevation of what happened here. Behold, the blood of the covenant. So I'll just put, see Matthew 26, 28, Last Supper. The reason for going all through all this, covenant, sacrifice, oath, communion sacrifice, blood, life, etc., the Passover lamb, eating the Passover lamb, this is all background for understanding the cross, the crucifix, the Last Supper, and what the early Christians meant by the Eucharist. This is all background for the way they understood this, because this covenantal context was presupposed, was assumed for the gospel writers, for Paul, and for the very early Christian communities. This notion of a new covenant. Just food for thought. Jesus used the word covenant once. He only says it once. Do you know where? At the Last Supper. This is the new covenant. My blood. It's the only time he says that word is at the Last Supper. It'd be follow the mark to say, well, maybe covenant just wasn't important. Covenant was that was the air they breathed in the biblical context.